YouTube. What's going on? Kai here checking in with another video today. Today we got how rappers fake their streams. This right here, if y'all don't know, Russ just had I think he just put out a single or whatever. It was going up, but it was like some views or some some of the views is like taken down, like it wasn't counted for because they said he bought some shit. He bought some views. So I guess it's him explaining what happened or what's going on. Let's go on and get into it though.
They also, and you guys all know, anyone in the industry watching this, you know this guy and that company, I won't say the names, but they boost the streams and they boost the sales.
Now, rappers faking their streams, not something that should surprise you. A lot of us are already hip to the game. In this video, I'm gonna uncover some things and give you a little bit of insight into how this is being done. Also, gonna touch on a story regarding another rapper exposing how he's getting screwed over by the industry behind the scenes. Wanna talk a little bit about this Russ story. If you guys don't know what's going on, Russ recently decided to come out and expose some things about the music industry after he was done dirty behind the scenes. Before we move on, just a quick little introduction on who Russ is. I'm sure most people are familiar with him though. Russ is a 30-year-old rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, and engineer. Okay, he does it all. Out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's a very successful artist in the industry, has been going strong on a big level for over 7 years, and has an extensive catalog and track record. Definitely one of the rappers who I want to say has almost the perfect career. He owns the majority of his masters, is completely self-made, has a strong fan base, sells out tours globally, you name it. Now the boy Russ recently ran into some trouble with the corporations of the industry, and he decided to expose it all. They play this man like the damn flute, and they were not expecting him to go off like this. They thought he would hold his tongue because that's what most artists do. And to be quite honest with you, that's probably what I would have done, because going against the industry in this fashion can sometimes be dangerous. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I, however, am a realist theorist, and I always like focusing on the things that are tangible and in front of us. However, when it comes to going against the music industry as an independent entity like Russ himself, you are opening yourself up for a lot of things that you might not necessarily want to deal with. When someone threatens the status quo and goes against the corporations, what tends to happen is they become an enemy of a bigger establishment. Now Russ is someone who's secured his future. He's completely independent, doesn't depend on a major label to keep his business running, and
true, all that's fine and dandy, but what happens when you start calling for other artists? It's only so many times where you can do your own solos, right? Now when it comes time to do features, when them songs you start doing with artists don't get cleared, oh man, they're not fucking with me. It's cause you made enemies. If you making enemies with the record labels, like I said, it's gonna only be so many times where a nigga wanna hear you by yourself, right? So let's just get that clear.
so now he's at a place where he's speaking his truth as he sees it because he can afford to do that. Russ has what we call FU money. He's making hundreds of thousands every single week and has been on that trajectory for almost a decade. So his belly is full, pockets good, fan base intact, all that good stuff. What happened recently is Russ dropped an album titled Santiago. I listened to it, very dope body of work. Shout out to Russ for that. Now Russ's album ended up debuting at number 12 on the Billboard 200 and it pushed over 42,000 first week, which is amazing for an artist who doesn't, number one, have the industry behind him, number two, is independent, not fake independent, but actually independent. So 42,000 first week ain't bad at all. Now the thing is, Russ's album actually did 52K first week, and now you might be wondering, what do you mean actually did?
Yeah, so what I heard was it was like package deal. I think it was like vinyls or whatever, and they didn't count it.
The numbers clearly said Russ Santiago debuts at number 12 with 42K sold. Well, this is when we get to the expose, because Russ revealed something that happened behind the scenes, and this is what he said. Billboard and Luminate took away another 4,000 of my real sales over the weekend, making that 10,000 sales total they took away from me, while allowing major labels to fake their streams and sales and do monopolistic merch bundles. Only major labels are allowed to do merch bundles because the only approved vendor is a major label vendor. That's a fact. These numbers and charts are made up. The impact, however, is not. Shout out to the fans. Russ also put up another tweet saying the following: one company, PMC, Penske Media Corporation, owns Luminate, the sole company that verifies the data for all the Billboard charts. That's also very true. Billboard, Rolling Stone, Variety, etc.
We handcraft every Stearns & Foster using the finest materials like indulgent memory foam and
Now, in this part of the video, let's talk a little bit about the source of these numbers, and I want to give you some context behind what Russ said and some other additional information about who's actually providing all the numbers and the data that we're receiving. So let's start with Billboard. So Billboard, you know what that is. It's an American entertainment / music magazine. It's been around for a long time. Now, here's the thing when it comes to Billboard, right? Billboard is owned by this company called Penske Media Corporation. Now, PMC, short for Penske Media Corporation, is a digital media publishing company based in Los Angeles. And this company owns over 20 of the biggest media companies in the music industry. Some of them include Billboard. Aside from that, they also own the Rolling Stone magazine, they also own Variety, and they also own the Hollywood Reporter, and they also own the very company that provides all the music and entertainment data in the music industry. This company is, or used to be, called MRC Data, and it's a data and analytics provider for the entire music industry. Back in 2020, Penske Media Corporation and MRC formed a data joint venture and started going by PMRC. 2 years later, in March 2022, Penske MRC Data ended up coming together as one company and rebranded as Luminate. So right now, at this very moment in 2023, the company Luminate is a source for all the numbers you see in the music industry. This is where all the data is essentially coming from. So they have all the monopoly, and they happen to be owned by one company which owns the majority of the big media brands in the music industry. Now that I've given you that scoop and insight on the source of the numbers, let's continue with what Russ said. He dropped his comment on an Instagram post that was discussing the news, and he said the following: "These aren't baseless accusations. They emailed us saying they're removing my sales. I'm supposed to not say anything. Meanwhile, y'all's favorite artists fake their streams and sales. We talked to that guy too, and y'all hop online trying to figure out why they can't sell tickets. LMA. Oh, sheep being sheep. Also, publications only posting me when I'm calling something out gives this perception like that's all I do with my time, LMAO. Russ continued with this tirade by saying, "I don't think y'all realize how nuts this is. Billboard charts are inflated by fake data, which is being verified by only one company. Luminate and Billboard are owned by the same company." He also put up this other tweet saying, "Watching the general public try to figure out why certain streams don't match the ticket sales is funny. LOL, it's not rocket science. Use your brain." Russ also said, "I dedicated my life to music and spreading a good message, and corrupt corporations are stealing and sabotaging from me, and I'm supposed to shut up because overall my life is good. Man, LMAO, y'all can tuck your tail if you want. I'm not. I'm speaking up for the artists who can't." Russ also posted this video on his Instagram and said the following:
"I'm making this video because the first week numbers are in, so first things first was showing y'all appreciation, but second thing is addressing the bullshit that's going on in the industry. So they've reported that I did 46,000. That's not true. I did 51,000. And it's really not so much about numbers why I'm like irritated with it. It's the fact that y'all are trying to diminish my impact and make it seem like my impact isn't really what it is. So they took away 5,600 of my sales on the grounds of, these are their words, that I'm not allowed to incentivize my fans to buy an album. And yet that is the definition of marketing. And what's strange about that is they allow merch bundles, but they only allow merch bundles if you use the one and only approved vendor, which is a major label vendor. So you can only do merch bundles, which is incentive to buy an album if you're a major label artist. So that's corrupt in and of itself. They also, and you guys all know, anyone in the industry watching this, you know this guy and that company, I won't say the names, but they boost the streams and they boost the sales. The industry allows for fake sales and fake streams to count, but my real sales of real people aren't allowed because I incentivize my fans to buy an album." Nah, Russ, you're actually boosting yourself. Don't gaslight me. Y'all know what y'all doing.
First of all, I want to take the time to salute Russ for having the confidence to go against these corporations. Just know that the game Russ is playing is, technically a really dangerous game, because the music industry doesn't take anyone who goes against them lightly. Once you're an enemy, you're always going to stay one. Russ is someone who's built up enough leverage for himself to the point where he's completely independent of the infrastructure the music industry has to offer. He's done a really good job at cultivating his own system outside of the industry. Russ used to be signed to a major label a few years back, He signed to Columbia Records back in 2016 after one of his records called What They Want started to gain traction. In his own words, Russ wanted to quote-unquote level the playing field by working with a major so he then could have his record pushed in the mainstream, cause Russ at the time was actually pulling in about $100K every single month. He was completely independent and was doing everything from his basement, and just based off of the checks from his streams combined, he was making 100 bands a month. So, he was far from starving, which is the best place to be as an artist if you're ever thinking about signing, by the way. If you're gonna sign, wait until you're financially good. So, if you sign, it's not because you're not financially good. So from that perspective, you have the confidence to walk away if it's a deal that's not really beneficial to your career, because most artists actually sign when they're dead broke, believe it or not. So the reason why they're signing is because they just want the money, and not necessarily because they believe that the deal that they're signing is actually going to benefit their career. And signing from that perspective is a scarcity mindset, and that's something that you don't really want. Now back to Russ. So all these major labels were approaching him, wanting to sign him because he built a sustainable foundation all by himself without the help of the industry, and that's when they usually come to the artist. So Russ was very aware of the power he had. He was making good ass money without anyone's help. In the end, he decided to sign a partnership deal with Columbia Records and was on the label until 2020. That's when he parted ways with him, and he's been independent ever since. Now the thing about Russ right now is he's a break in the pattern. He's doing things independently at such a high level to the point where he's setting a certain precedent that's not all that beneficial for the music industry. If there's one rapper who's a threat to the labels right now, it's this guy right here. And it's not that Russ is a, one-man army who's doing everything by himself, because he has a team of people he works with like any successful artist. It's just that Russ managed to gain all this industry experience by being signed, and he really had no plans to be in bed with the corporations forever. One of the things that he was intending to do was to hold on to as much of his power as possible, and he had this in mind when he signed. Now as for what Russ said regarding the inflated streams, my favorite part of the video is coming up right now, so that's not really a secret. He brought up something interesting on that one tweet when he said, "Watching the general public try to figure out why certain streams don't match the ticket sales is funny, lol, it's not rocket science, use your brain." What Russ is essentially saying is, streams can be manufactured, hard tickets, however, can't, and that's a fact.
Yep, that's why these artists with these tour dates, y'all know about these tour dates that we keep hearing about, the cancellation of these arenas, when they do these arenas and they like, oh, why this artist can't get shows in Wisconsin? Oh, it's not a big enough market. It's a big enough market when your song was playing on the radio a million times. Now it's time for you to pull up there. Nobody want to see you.
This is why you should never put too much weight on an artist's monthly listeners or their streams. I mean, there's a rapper who was popping a few years ago who recently dropped an album who just canceled his entire tour, and he had over 20 million monthly listeners on Spotify. I'm sure you know what rapper I'm talking about. I'm going to be talking about that very soon. But this is especially relevant when we have, let's say, an artist who doesn't have that long of a track record, because there are a lot of people in this industry who come in with a not so extensive track record, and a lot of times the history that does exist on them is actually a fabricated story that's been closely manipulated and edited in order to make their success appear as...
I'm not gonna say that though, like going back to the tour shit, you gotta realize, bro, we just in a time, I think I said this even in the video, but we just in a time where money is scarce. People don't have money to put out for tours. Tickets is anywhere from $100 to $1,000 or $1,000+. People don't have money for that, bruh. You gotta realize it's about to become fall time, so now people saving up for Thanksgiving, Christmas. You might have birthdays in between that. Like, you got things. Labor Day was just yesterday, so you had cookout. You know what I mean? Just things that you gotta put money to. You got bills. You got other responsibilities. You got children. Like, you don't have it to where, all right, well, let me go ahead and do XYZ. Like, all right, fuck all that. I gotta focus on real life. Fuck a tour.
Organic. So they have a bunch of manufactured streams on, let's say, Spotify, where it's visible, and they build a little bit of fake hype on social media by allocating a lot of their funds towards advertisements, specifically with the help of hip-hop media outlets. And part of building that fake hype, I almost forgot, okay? Fake followers. That's a very big part of it, okay? Fake followers. And so they end up getting a lot of eyes on them at once. Now let me explain the psychology here, right? The idea is for those eyes to see what appears to be the success they're getting, and a percentage of those eyes then convert into actual listeners. Now this is a strategy a lot of artists, specifically rappers, are using right now at this very moment. Stream farms and inflated numbers are bigger than ever, and a lot of the upcoming names you're finding out about are on it. Now a lot of these artists are actually getting funded by outside investors from what I'm hearing, because they themselves can't afford to do it because, you know, they're signed to a major label, they've spent a lot of their money already, and they're already in the negative, so they don't have the funds required for this. So these outside entities that have the resources help them get their career off the ground, and they're providing them with the money. The benefit they get is that they receive a percentage of their future earnings if the artist ends up being successful. Just like how a record label gives you an advance in return for owning your masters, these investors, they're rich, independent, and willing to blow money for a potential return on that investment. I've heard about a couple companies that specialize in this particular service, and what you find when you search them on Google is not what it appears to be. Most of these companies are what we call smoke screen businesses. So on the surface, it looks like they provide organic marketing services to artists, but on a back end, they're going to aid you in inflating your streams. So how it works is this: you apply your artist resume, you go through a vetting process and a verification process, and then once you become a viable option for them to work with, you sign a contract where you give them permission to help you quote unquote push your music. At that stage, you as the artist, you still don't know what precisely they're doing to help you. So they'll give you this fake rundown that's completely fabricated. They'll say, we're working with this company that's embedded with this major label and this distributor, and these are all the places your records are being pushed, something to that effect. The artist who's bought into the scam says, okay, next thing you know, their streams start going up.
I would go to yoga, but I don't have the right gear.
Save on all the best activewear at Sierra.
Also, I'm...
The reason why it's so hard to find these companies is because unless you know certain people in the industry who, number one, are connected to the people who indulge in the scam, and number two, are actually willing to share it, you're never going to find out about it. Because once it goes mainstream, it's not going to work, so this is forever going to stay underground. These companies also don't work with everyone. Artists have to go through a lengthy vetting process to even be considered, because if they work with the wrong people who don't know how to keep things private, their cover is going to be blown. And a lot of these companies actually work under a lot of the major labels, okay, like some of the biggest labels. And this is something someone told me in confidence, and they allowed me to share it for this particular video. I'm not going to say no names, and please don't ask me what the company or anything like that is, because I'm not going to share it with anybody, okay? This is what I was told in confidence. Also, I'm not trying to get sued, but this is very common, and a lot of the names that are popping right now have all done this. Like, they've all done it. But most rappers only use this as a crutch in the beginning, and so when the attention they start getting goes from fake streams to actual streams to fans, they cut the cord and keep it organic from that point. Because if they do it for too long, well, then they're gonna get exposed. Personally, I'm very against anything that's not organic. I think if you want to build a sustainable career in music, setting the wrong precedent from the start is always going to end up in misery. It's always going to backfire. There's no way around it. Faking streams ain't no different from what they be doing in the fitness community with the fake weights. You can pretend that what you're doing is working, but really you're just hurting yourself. Even if it works, your foundation is built on something that's not real. And the reason why faking your streams always backfires is because, number one, you're building a house on shaky grounds. Number two, the points on a board aren't real people. They're just digits which have no ties to the real world or real people. So you're not really growing your influence, you're just paying money for essentially appearing as a success. And number three, 95, probably 99% of the artists who do this don't get anything additionally on top of the fake streams, meaning they spend a bunch of their resources to inflate their numbers, and then there's no actual overflow of fans that come as a result of that. Because that's the idea. You spend a bunch of money on fake streams and then you get shit popping, right? Number four, when you get exposed as a fraud, because you will, you now don't have a career in music because you're a fraud, a phony, and a clown. Number five, that money could have been allocated towards improving as an artist, which would actually help you. And number six, and this is probably the biggest one, streams doesn't equate to fans in the first place. Like I'm saying, even if your streams are real, that doesn't even guarantee that you're going to build a fan base off of those streams. Because how many rappers do we not know who have hundreds of millions of streams but can't pack a venue of 50 people? This is such a common phenomenon, so screw.
Facts. You see, that's why you see major artists, they be doing shows and there be 50 people in the crowd. You be like, Nigga, you got a million followers on Twitter or Instagram, whatever. 50 people? Boy, ain't no motherfucking way.
The fake streams, real streams don't even work a lot of times. So what's really the incentive to fake your streams? You could of course come up with many different reasons depending on the lens you're looking at things from, because everything is a matter of perspective, and at least 50% of all the rappers who are trying to make it into the industry will at some point try these tactics like faking your streams or other things that will not have a real return on their investment, that are completely just fraudulent, because everyone wants to take the shortcut these days. No one wants to put in the work. No one wants to grind for the next decade and cultivate a plan for the future that's sustainable. Everyone, however, wants to fake it till they make it, to each in his own. But I'm warning you, once you do this, there's no going back. You are officially a fraud, a clown, and a phony, and people love supporting authenticity. So you have no chance of maintaining a successful career in music because you're a fraud. To at least half of the upcoming rappers in the industry who are trying to make it, faking your streams sounds very tempting, but I'm telling you, it never goes the way you plan for it to go. The majority of the industry is in fact fake, so if they don't try to fake their streams, there's other things they're gonna indulge in. At the end of the day, the rappers who win in the end are guys like Russ, who never had it in his mind that he was gonna take a shortcut. He put in the work, he did his time, and now he's at a place where he has to answer to nobody but himself. No gimmicks, no shortcuts, just pure work. That's how you win in the end, because how you finish is how you start. And if you start as a fraud, well, you're always gonna finish as one. Remember that. Anyway, any thoughts on this topic? My name is Blackie Speaks, and if you made it till the end, consider subscribing and consider hitting that like button. Curious to hear what you have to say about this particular topic, and I will catch you on the next one. I'm out.